Today we're going to attempt to ascend and then descend one of the most treacherous mountain passes in North America, the famed $1 Million Highway, also known as Red Mountain Pass. Our attempt will be made in this Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, that I like to call Ginger, that is fully loaded with a trailer to absolute max capacity. One of the first things to note is that Red Mountain is the hub of most of the famed off-road trails of southwestern Colorado's San Juan Mountains. This is the entrance to Ophir Pass that connects into Telluride. Is anybody a fan of drinking games? I'm personally not, but if you wanted to play one, every time I cross double yellow line in the middle, drink. Or if you're not too thirsty, every time you see the brake lights go on for more than 3 seconds, drink. Red Mountain Pass summits at over 11,000 feet at the base of, you guessed it, Red Mountain, which is not just one mountain, but 3. It's named for its iron oxide bands that are indeed red. Red Mountain connects the towns of Ouray, Colorado and Silverton, Colorado. Silverton, at about 9,000 feet of elevation, is one of the highest towns in North America. The road itself is open all year unless there is an avalanche, a rock slide, a mudslide, or a fatality accident, which happen with some regularity. In fact, sometimes people die of a heart attack just from how scary the backside of this pass is. You'll see that when we come to it on the downward facing or north slope when we come into the city of Ouray. So why is Red Mountain Pass also called the $1 Million Highway? Well, legend has it that the gravel that was used for the roadbed was so rich in gold that it had to be worth at least $1 million. I don't know if that's true or not, but I sort of like the story and I liked feeling like I'm driving on the yellow brick road. Here, near the top of Red Mountain, is where Black Bear Pass goes off to the left. Black Bear is the crown jewel of the San Juans and is one of the most dangerous roads in the world, for good reason. If you get a chance, it's something that I think everyone who has a relatively short wheelbase off-road vehicle needs to experience at least once in their life. I, for one, will be going back to it every time that the road is clear enough. Right now it's closed because of deep snow. Well, we made it to the top. No big deal, right? All the temps were normal, 222 on the water and 215 on the transmission fluid. Easy sailing, but that's not the hard part. Here we go. Those are some serious switchbacks. The bad news is that they're just preparing us for what's to come later. A little bit here on my driving style. One of the things that you'll notice is that I do all of my braking before the apex of a turn. It's a habit that I've never felt a reason to break from my off-road racing days. My mom and dad taught me to do all your braking before the corner and power out of the corners, and also to straighten out the S's. That takes into account the reason that I don't usually pay attention to the double yellow line in the middle unless there's oncoming traffic. So, as I always say, make sure you never drive outside of your field of vision. One of the big reasons for braking before the apex of a corner, by the way, is that if you brake after the apex, you end up having something called understeer or push. And that's bad when you're in the mountains because it could push you right over the edge, especially if you're doing something like pulling a trailer or have a heavy load. On the other hand, if you are powering out of a corner, you could have a tendency to oversteer the vehicle and put it into a slide. That's not an unrecoverable situation in a rear-wheel drive vehicle, even with a trailer. So you're better off doing your braking beforehand and applying power gently on the post-apex side of the corner. good friend Toby, and I think he got it from his dad Chuck, refers to this type of a road as a bag of guts for obvious reasons. After the long set of switchbacks to the top and passing the historic mine site, the road flattens out for just a little while through a plateau. The Red Mountain Creek is there, there's a nice park, the speed limit even gets up to 55 miles an hour. What it really is just lulling you into a false sense of security for what lies ahead. A weekend in the summer with traffic coming up this hill towards you and things like 40-foot fifth wheels and giant motorhomes in the wrong lane because the flatlanders that are driving them are scared of the drop-off and the certain death if they make a mistake.
Shut up and sit down.
My wife, who is from Durango, just a few miles from here, told a story of a cousin that came from Ohio that they took over Red Mountain Pass on a Sunday drive, as we would often do when we came to visit. Well, apparently this cousin was so afraid that he sat on the floor in the back seat of the car and vomited violently when they got to the bottom at Ouray. We've all heard of the Alpine Loop. One of the access points is right here on the right. The Alpine Loop isn't really a loop. There are several access points, and it actually encompasses several very high mountain passes that are all accessed via gravel roads with some minor obstacles thrown in for the most part. I say for the most part because here at the very bottom on the Ouray entrance, which is where we're at, there are some pretty decent sized obstacles that low clearance vehicles would have a hard time with. Also, if you choose to do Poughkeepsie Gulch, one of the optional lines goes up an obstacle called the Wall. And, well, you can imagine what that is. It's a rock wall. But beyond those two obstacles, the rest of the Alpine Loop is mostly scenic. It gets on very high shelf roads, and you can access Silverton, Lake City, Animas Forks, and Ouray from the Alpine Loop. Is this even for real?
Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
coming up the hill, this service truck is sitting on a blind corner in your lane. So the road goes down to one lane with no warning.
Shut up and sit down.
As we near the end of the $1 Million Highway, we're coming to the entrance of a couple more very famous trails. One of them is Imogene Pass that also connects into the other, which is called Yankee Boy Basin. A great day would be to start in the town of Ouray, go over Imogene Pass to Telluride, and then loop around Ophir Pass back to the top of Red Mountain, come down Black Bear Pass, and then if you're staying in Ouray, you can go back over Imogene again or go around through Ridgeway on the highway. Now we're entering the picturesque town of Ouray, Colorado. I will say this, in the summer, there is no town that I've ever been in that there are more Jeeps per capita. So if you're a Jeep person, Ouray is the place to go. And if you're not a Jeep person, you can rent one there. If you like something else, Toyotas, Land Rovers, Land Cruisers, whatever you like, you can bring those too. I'm just saying there's a ton of Jeeps. It's a great little town. They've got great restaurants, great food. There's a brewery, there's a distillery, there's bakeries, chocolate shops, all that stuff. Plus, there's some great Airbnbs as well as some good places to camp. They also have a hot springs. So when you get the chance, put Ouray on your bucket list and make it your hub of operations. Either there, Silverton, or Durango. The other option would be Lake City, so you can connect into all these roads and trails via the Alpine Loop. the end of the day, the Jeep did great. No issues pulling up the hill or braking down the hill. Had the proper safety equipment, proper driving style and technique. It was a nice, clear day. Definitely things change. I've been on this road in the winter as well as when it's wet and in the dark, and it really can turn into a monster. But today, it was absolutely fantastic, and I loved every second of it. After I got done with Red Mountain, I drove up through Montrose, Colorado to Grand Junction, where I had lunch with a dear family friend, and then over to Crystal Geyser, Utah, where I set up this epic campsite on the banks of the Green River. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, like it, share it. I know this one was really long, but I look forward to seeing you down the trail.